Chapter 42 of The Man in the Panther Skin by Shota Rustaveli, translated by Marjorie Wardrop. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Beeswaxcandle. Tariel and Avtandil go to Pridon. When day dawned, they set out. They took Asmat with them. Till they came to Nuradin's land, they mounted her behind them. There a merchant gave them a horse for a price in gold. He made not a gift of it. As guide, Avtandil sufficed. Whom else need he take? They wended their way and met with Nuradin's herdsmen. They saw the herd of horses. It pleased them who had come for Pridon. There said the Hindu to Avtandil, I will have thee do a good piece of fooling. Come, let us play a joke on Pridon. Let us chase his herd. We will carry off the herd. He will come and hear that the herd is reaved. He will prepare to do battle, to dye the plain with gore. Suddenly he will recognize us. He will be surprised. He will calm his heart. Pleasant is good joking. It makes even the proud merry. They began to seize the steeds, Pridon's finest. There the herdsmen made a torch. They struck steel. They shouted, Who are ye, knights, who do such high-handed deeds? This herd is his who strikes the foe with his swords without making him to sigh. They seized their bows. They pursued the herdsmen. The herdsmen shrieked aloud. They raised their voices. Help! Help! Brigands are massacring us! They made an outcry. They united. They appealed to Pridon. They were not bashful. Pridon arrayed himself. He mounted. He rode forth in full array. They made an outcry. They united. The regiment covered the fields. Those sons whom winter could not freeze came forward. They were covered up. Helmets hid their faces. When Tariel knew Pridon, Now have I seen him I want, said he. He raised his helm. He smiled. He laughed. He said to Pridon, What dost thou wish? Why doth our coming annoy thee? Bad host, thou meetest us to fight. Pridon swiftly dismounted. He fell down and saluted. They also alighted. They embraced. I kissed him. Pridon with upraised hand gave God measureless thanks. The magnates also kissed them, whoever knew them. Pridon said, Why tarried ye? I expected ye sooner. I am ready. I shall not lag in any service of yours. It seemed as if two suns and a moon were united there. They beautified one another. They set out. They departed. At Pridon's fairly builded house they both alighted. He sits down beside his sworn brother Avtandil. Cariel sat on a throne covered in cloth of gold. To Pridon, renowned as a hero, they presented that armour. They said, At this time we have no other gifts for thee, but we have many other fair things lying in a place we wot of. He laid his face to the ground. He wasted not time. Such a gift to me is worthy of you. That night they rested as Pridon's guests. Baths he gave them. He gave them gifts of garments in plenty. He clad their beauty in beauty, each garment fairer than the other. He gave them rare jewels and pearls in a golden basin. He said, This that I am about to say is the speech of a bad host. 'Tis as if hospitality to your wise ones wearied me as if you were mad ones. But tarrying now avails not. It is better to travel the long road. If the Kajis outstrip us, there is a risk of trouble. Why should we use great hosts? We want good and few. 300 men suffices. Let us go swift like runaways. In Kajeti for fighting the Kajis, we shall put basket hilts on our swords. Soon shall we find her whose pleasant aloe form will slay us. Once aforetime I was in Kajeti. You shall see it too, and you too shall find it strong. On all sides around is rock. A foe may not come up to it. If we go not in privily, it is impossible to gauge openly. So we need no army. The squadron cannot follow us secretly. With what he said, they too agreed. They left there the maiden Asmat. Pridon bestows a gift upon her. They took with them 300 horsemen equal to heroes. At the last, God will give the victory to all who have been distressed. All three sworn brothers crossed the sea. Pridon knows the way. Going day and night they travel. Pridon said, Now we are coming nigh the regions of the Kajeti. Henceforth we must travel by night so that we be not discovered. The three behaved according to this advice of Predon's. When it was daylight they stopped, and by night they went swiftly on. They arrived. The city appeared. They could not count the guards. Outside was a rock. The noise of the sentinels and crowds increased. At the gate of the passage 10,000 braves kept guard. Those lions saw the city. The shining moon stood upon it. They said, "Let us advise what is best. Now is choice difficult. 100 can overcome 1,000 if they choose the best way." End of chapter 42. Chapter 43 is The Man in the Panther Skin by Shota Rustaveli, translated by Marjorie Wardrop. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Beeswaxcandle. The council of Predon, Avtandil and Tariel as to the assault on the castle of Kajethi. Predon said, "I will speak a word. I think I am not at fault. We are few. The city is only expungible by many. We have not strength for a direct attack. This is no time for boasting. In 1,000 years we could not anywhere win in if they shut the gate against us. In my childhood, my tutors instructed me in gymnastics. They taught me their tricks. They made me leap. They trained me. I used to go along a rope so that eyes could not follow me. Whatever little boys looked at me, they also desired to do it. Now, whichever of you knows best how to cast a noose, let us throw the end of a long rope to that tower. It seems as easy for me to cross as a field. I shall make it a trouble to you to find a sound man inside. To me it seems not to cross in armour, no trouble to bear a shield. Nimbly shall I leap down inside, strike like a wind, slay the soldiers. I shall open. You shall see the opening of the gate. You too come hither, where you hear the uproar of alarm." Avtandil said, "Ha, Predon, friends cannot complain of thee. Thou hast hope in thy lion-like arms. Wounds hurt not thee. Thou counsellest hard counsel to make foes lament. But hearest thou not how very near the garrison shouts? When thou goest over, the garrison will hear the clatter of thine armour. They will perceive thee. They will cut the cord. Of this thou must be assured. Everything will turn out ill for thee. Only the vain attempt will remain to thee. That counsel is of no value. Let us help ourselves in some other way. This is better. You stay hidden in ambush. These men will not lay hands on a traveller coming into the town. I will dress myself as a merchant. I will do a treacherous deed. I will load a mule with helmet, hauberk, and sword. It is of no use for the three of us to go in. There is a risk that they would perceive it. I shall go alone as a merchant, and well shall I win in unnoticed. Secretly shall I don mine armour. I shall appear. I shall deceive them. God grant that I may make channels of blood to flow generously in there. Without any difficulty, I shall remove the guards inside. You strike outside the gate, all like heroes. I shall shatter the locks. I shall open. You will see the opening of the gate. If aught else would be better, say so. I am for a plan of this sort." Tariel said, "I recognize your heroism exceeding that of heroes. Your counsel and advice is like your own stout-heartedness. I know you desire fierce fight, not a vain brandishing of swords. When the battle becomes perilous, then are ye men. But let me too have some choice in the matter. The sound will be heard by her who maddens me. Like the sun, she will be standing aloft. You will have fierce fight. She will see me as a non-combatant. This will be a slur on me. Nay, speak no flattering words. Better than that counsel is this. Let us do as I say. Let us divide the men by hundreds. When night turns to dawn, let the three of us start out from 3 places. Swiftly let us urge on our horses. They will send out to encounter us. We shall seem insignificant to them. We shall lend a powerful palm to the sword. Swiftly shall we engage them. We shall get round them. They will not be able to shut the gates against us. One of the 3 will go in. The others from outside will strike with battering rams. That one who is inside will fall on those within, making their blood flow. Again, let us lay hold of the arms mightily used by us." Predon said, "I understand, I perceive, I know what it is. None could forestall at the gates that horse that once was mine. When I gave it, I knew not that we should want to mount guard over the Kajis and Kajeti. If so, I tell thee I would by no means have given it to thee, such is mine avarice." Predon the gay jest with such discourse as this. Thereupon they, the eloquent, wise-worded ones, laugh. They joke with one another, with merriment beseeming them. They dismounted and arrayed themselves. They mounted their excellent steeds. Again they exchanged words, not tart to the mouth. They resolved on that plan proposed by Tariel. They divided among them by hundreds the men, all equal to heroes. They mounted their horses, their helmets they raised. I saw those heroes shining with rays excelling the sun. Those three are covered by the 7 planets with a column of light. Tariel with slender form sits on the black horse. They consume their foes in fight, as their admirers by gazing. Now, this is what I shall say is their image and likeness. When clouds rain down and the stream pours from the mountains, it comes and glides through the glens, turmoil and uproar is heard. But when it unites with the sea, then is it even so calm. Though Predon and Avtandil are unrivalled in valour, yet to engage with Daria is to be desired of none. The sun hides even the planets, nor do the Pleiades shine. Now give heed, O listener, thou shalt hear of fierce fights. The 3 split up into 3, 1 for each gate. With them they had 300 men, all equal to heroes. That night they hastily made a reconnaissance, not illusory. Day dawned. They appeared. They set forth. They each had his shield. First they went quietly in the guise of some travellers. Those inside could not perceive. They could not meet them alertly. They had no fear in their hearts. Quietly they stood at ease. They approached. For the time being they covered their helmets. Suddenly they spurred their horses. Their whips swished. When they saw, they opened the gates. A tumult came forth from the city. The 3 set out in 3 different directions, thus risking their lives. They played on fifes and drums. They made the trumpets sound shrill. Then the measureless wrath of God struck Kajeti. Kronos, looking down in anger, removed the sweetness of the sun. To them the Kajis, also in wrath, turned around the wheel and circle of heaven. The fields could not contain the corpses. The army of the dead was increasing. The sound of Tariel's mighty voice made men unwounded faint. He rent the armour. The strength of the chainmail was brought to naught. They attacked the gates on 3 sides. They found no difficulty in cutting them down. When they entered the city, they began swiftly to destroy the castle. Avtandil and the lion Predon met inside. They had wholly destroyed the enemy, whose blood flowed in streams. They shouted and saw each other. They rejoiced greatly. They said, "How goeth it with Tariel?" Their eyes roved round seeking him. None of them knew. They could hear naught of Tariel. They wended to the castle gate. No care had they for the foe. There they saw a bank of armour, shattered chips of sword blades, the 10,000 guards lifeless like dust. All the castle guard lay like sick men, every one wounded from head to foot, their armour rent in pieces, the castle gates open, the fragments of the gates flung aside. They recognized Tariel's handiwork. They said, "This is his doing." They found the roads prepared. They entered and crept up the passage. They saw. The moon was freed from the serpent to meet the sun. He raised his helmet. His reedy hair, thrown back, became him well. Breast was glued to breast. Neck was riveted to neck. Neston and Tariel embraced each other. They kissed and shed tears. They were like when Mushtar and Zual are united. When the sun surrounds the rose, they become fair and reflect the rays. They that have hitherto seen griefs will henceforth rejoice. They kissed each other. They stood neck welded. Again, full oft they glued the roses of the opened lips. Now those also, Avtandil and Predon, came forth. The 3 sworn brothers were gathered together. They gave greeting to that son. They presented themselves as they were called on. The son met them with lovely, laughing face. The proud one kissed her helpers with gentle mien. She humbly gave them thanks with dainty words. Both together talked with fair discourse. They greeted Tariel too, that tree like an aloe sapling. They wished him joy of the victory. They asked news of one another. It irked them not, they regretted not, for their armour had not failed them. They themselves had quit themselves as lions, those that fought against them had been as hinds and goats. Out of the 300 men, 160 came in with them. It grieved Predon for his troops, but on the other hand he rejoiced. They sought out and suffered not to live whatever adversaries were left. What treasures they found, now how can their number be told? They collected mules, camels, whatever they could find that was swift. They loaded 3,000 with pearls and gems, every gem cut, jacinths and rubies. They placed that son in a palanquin. Precautions are taken by them. They appointed 60 men to guard the castle of the Georgian. They led away that son. Hard would it be to ravish her from them. They set out for the city of the seas, though long is the way thither. They said, "We must see Patman. We owe her a due recompense." End of chapter 43. In chapter 44 of The Man in the Panther Skin by Shota Rustaveli, translated by Marjorie Wardrop. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Beeswaxcandle. The going of Tariel to the King of the Seas and to Predons. To the presence of the King of the Seas he sent a messenger of good tidings. He bade him announce, "I, Tariel, come, vanquisher of foes, their destroyer and slayer. From Georgian I bring my son, piercer of me with arrows. I desire to see thee with honour as father and parent. Now I have the land of the Kajis and their hordes. O King, all that is good hath happened to me from you. My son was freed by Patman. She was a mother and a sister to her. What can I give thee in return for this? I hate vain promises. Come, see us before we have passed thy land. I present to thee outright the kingdom of the Kajis. Accept it from me. Let thy men be posted there. Hold the castle strongly. I am in haste. I cannot come to see thee. Come thou forth, wend towards me. On my behalf, tell Usain, Patman's husband, to send her. The sight of her will please her she freed. Whom else can she desire to see more than her who is brighter than the sun, even as crystal is brighter than pitch?" When Tariel's man was received by the rulers of the sea, it is the custom that the heart is agitated by startling tidings, he gave thanks and glory to God the just judge. Straightway he mounted. He needed no other messenger or invitation. He loaded baggage. He appointed the making of their wedding. He takes a number of pretty things, and not a great quantity of jet. He has Patman with him. They made a journey of 10 days. The sight of the lion and the sun, the light of the lands, rejoices him. Afar off the three met the great King of the Seas. They dismounted. He humbly kissed them. They were encompassed by a host of troops. They rendered praise to Tariel. He gave 1,000 thanks. When they saw the damsel, he, the King of the Seas, was fascinated by her crystal halo rays. Slow fire consumed Dame Patman at the sight of her. She embraced her. She covered with kisses her hand, foot, face, neck. She said, "O God, I will serve thee, since my darkness is lightened for me. I recognize the shortness of evil. Thy goodness is everlasting." The maiden embraced Patman. Sweetly she speaks, not angry. "God hath enlightened my rent, faded heart. Now am I as full as formerly I was waning. The sun hath shed his beams upon me. Therefore I appear a rose unfrozen." The King of the Seas celebrated there an exceeding great wedding. He thanked Tariel too for Georgian. He would not let them go for 7 days. Generously he dispensed gifts, the treasure he had loaded. They wore out by treading upon it the scattered gold coin as if it were a bridge. There stood a heap of silk, brocade, and satin. He gave to Tariel a crown. A price could not be set on it, of a whole jacinth, yellow, exceeding pure, likewise a throne of gold, red, refined. He presented to Nasta and Georgian a mantle, adorned with gems, red jacinths, rubies of Badakhshan, and rubies. They both sat, the maid and the youth, with faces flashing lightning. They that looked on them burned with new fire. He presented to Avtandil and Predon measureless great gifts, a valuable saddle, an excellent horse, to each a jewelled coat shedding rare-hued rays. They said, "What thanks can we utter? Prosperous be your state." Tariel rendered thanks with his tongue in fair words. "Greatly have I been pleased, O king, first at seeing you, then you have filled us with many fair kinds of gifts. I wot we did well not to pass by afar off from you." The king of the seas says, "O king, lion, valorous, life of those near you, slayer from afar of those that cannot look on you. What can I give you like unto yourself, O fair to look upon? When I am away from you, what shall avail me, O desirable to be gazed on?" Tariel said to Patman, "I adopt thee as my sister. O sister, great is mine unpayable debt to thy heart. Now whatever treasure of the Kajis I have brought with me from Kajeti, I give it to thee. Take it, I sell it not." Dame Patman made obeisance. She proffered exceeding great thanks. "O king, parting from thee burns me with unquenchable fire. When I shall be away from thee, what shall I do? Thou wilt leave me like one bereft of sense. Ah, blessed are those near thee. Woe to him that cannot gaze on you." The two radiant ones spoke to the king of the seas. Their teeth were crystals, their lips as pearl shells. "When we are deprived of you, we desire not merrymakings, harps and kettle drums. But give us leave, it is time, let us depart, we are in haste. Be our father, parent and hope, but this indeed we beseech of thee, grant us a ship." The king said, "I grudge not to give myself as earth for you to tread on. Since thou art in haste, what can I say to thee? Go, thine arm be thy guide." The king fitted out a ship on the shore. Tariel set out. Those who were parted shed tears. They beat their heads. They tore their hair and beards and cast them away. Patman's tears and their flow even augmented the sea. The three sworn brothers crossed the seas together. Again they confirmed by their word what they formerly affirmed. Singing and laughter were beseeming to them who were not ignorant thereof. The ray from their lips shone upon the planks of crystal. Thence they sent a man to Asmat as a messenger of good tidings, also to the households of Pridon's chiefs who had been in the fight, to announce to them, "He comes hither, as the sea he rises high, reinforcing the planets. We erstwhile frozen shall be frozen now no more." They seated that son in a palanquin. They wended their way along the coast. They sported like children. The passing away of woe gladdened them. They came where was the land of the hero Nureddin. They were met. They heard the sound of frequent song. There all Pridon's magnates met them. Asmat, full of joy, whose wounds no longer appeared, was riveted to Nestandaregin so that axes could not loose them. Now she had ended all her faithful services. Nestandaregin embraces her, kisses her face with her mouth. She said, "Mine own, woe is me, I have filled thee too with grief. Now God hath granted us grace, I acknowledge his boundless bounty. I know not with what I can repay so great a heart as thine." Asmat said, "Thanks be to God, I have seen the roses unfrozen. At length understanding hath thus revealed things hidden. Death itself seems to me life when I see you happy. Better than all friends are suzerain and vassals that love one another." The magnates did homage. They rendered great praise. "Since God hath caused us to rejoice, blessed is his divinity. He hath shown us your face. No longer doth the burning of fires consume us. Even he that gave the wound, he hath the power to heal it." They came and put their mouths on their hands. Thus they kissed them. Tariel said, "For our sake have your brethren sacrificed themselves. They have found joy in eternity, a reality and no dream. They have attained communion with the One. Their glories are increased 120-fold. Though their death is sore to me and grievous, yet the great immortal gift hath there fallen to their lot." Thus he spake. Gently he wept, and the rain of tears was mingled with the snow of his cheeks. Boreas blows from the narcissi, January freezes the rose. There all wept when they saw him in tears. Whoever had lost any kinsman moaned, weeping and sobbing. All were hushed. Then they said respectfully to Tariel, "Since sages liken thee to the sun, it befits them that look upon you to be merry. Wherefore should they lament? Who is worthy of your so great weeping and sorrow? Death for your sake is far better than walking upon the earth." Then Predon said to the king, "Make not bitterness to thyself from aught. May God in return render to thee 1,000 joys." Aftandil also sympathized. He speaks with great sorrow. They rendered praise and said, "Now let us yield ourselves to smiling, since the lost lion has found the vanished son. No more will we weep what is deplorable. No longer will we set canals in our eyes." Thither they went, where is the great city Morgazanza. They played trumpet and kettledrum. There was trampling and uproar. The sound of drum and copper drum blended fairly. The burgesses crowded round. They left the bazaar. The merchants came from their rows. On all sides there was a host of onlookers. The officers kept a wide space round them. They had arms in their hands. Families came crowding in, causing trouble to the officers. There were entreaties to be allowed there to look upon them. At Predon's they alighted. They saw a pleasing palace. Many slaves with golden girdles met them. They had naught but gold brocade as a carpet for their feet. They threw up gold above their heads. The crowd marching there picked it up in heaps. End of chapter 44. Chapter 45 of The Man in the Panther Skin by Shota Rustaveli, translated by Marjorie Wardrop. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Beeswaxcandle. The Wedding of Tariel and Neston by Predon. He placed for the maid and the youth a throne white and coral-hued, prettily sprinkled with red and yellow gems. For Avtandil, one of mingled yellow and black. They came, they sat down. The spectators, I ween, were impatient for them. The minstrels came forth. The sound of sweet singing was heard. They made the wedding. The presentation of soft silk stuffs was multiplied by Predon, the good entertainer, not an abashed host. A smile, a tooth glimpse, beautifies Nestan the Reggian. They brought out incomparable gifts from the wealthy Predon. 9 pearls incised like a goose's egg. Also 1 gem like to the sun with augmented ray. Before it at night a painter could have painted a picture. Likewise he presented to each a necklace to throw over the neck, of gems cut into spheres of whole jacinths. He also brought a tray, scarcely to be held in the hand, a gift for the lion Avtandil from the generous Predon. That tray is full of plump pearls. He gave all to Avtandil, with not unseemly words. The house was filled with brocade and soft cloth of gold. Tariel the proud gives thanks with sweet words. For 8 days Predon made measureless wedding festivities. Every day they offer priceless presents prepared. Day and night lute and harp ceased not to sound. Behold, a youth and a maiden worthy of each other have attained each other. Tariel one day spake to Predon words of the heart. Your heart is more mine than that of a complete brother. My life would not be a fitting return, nor the gift of my soul. Dying I found from you the balm from my wound. Thou knowest of Avtandil's self-sacrifice for my sake. Now I would serve him in return. Go, ask. He will reveal what he wants. As he hath quenched my furnace, even so hath his burned enough. Say to him, O brother, what will repay thee for the grief thou hast seen for my sake? God will grant thee his grace imaged forth from on high. If I cannot do something desirable for thee, contrived for thy sake, I will not see my house, nor hall, nor hut. Now tell me what thou wishest of me, or in what I can help thee. I choose that we go to Arabia. Be thou my guide. Let us bring to reason the sweet with words, the warlike with swords. If thou be not united to thy wife, I will be no husband to mine. When Predon told Avtandil Tariel's message, he laughed. He smiled. Mirth beautified him. He said, Why want I a helper? I am not hurt by a wound from any. The Kajis possess not my son, nor doth lack of joy afflict her. My son sits upon a throne, powerful by the will of God, respected and honoured, proud, harmed by none. She is by no means oppressed by Kajis, nor by the sorcery of wizards. Why should I want help with regard to her? Expect me not to speak flattering words. When providence shall come for me, heavenly beings from above, if God wills, shall visit my heart, consolations for the furnace. Then indeed the radiances of the flashing of the sun will be my lot when I am dying. Till that time be come, vain are my runnings to and fro. Go and report to Tariel the answer spoken by me. What thanks are needed, O king, however great is thy compassion. Even from my mother's womb am I born to be your servant. And by God, let me be but earth till thou be recognized as king. Thou hast said, I desire thy union to thy beloved. This is like your compassionate heart. There my sword cuts not, nor breadth of tongue. It is better for me to await the deed of yon celestial providence. This is my wish and my desire, that I may see thee powerful in India, enthroned upon the thrones, the heavenly light too sitting by thy side, the face flashing lightning, that your foes be exterminated, that no adversary appear there. When these, the desires of my heart, have been fulfilled to me, then indeed shall I go to Arabia. It will befall me to be near that sun. When she wills, she shall quench the burnings of this fire for me. Naught else do I wish from you. I hate all kinds of flattery. When Predon reported to Tariel these words of the night, he said, That I will not do, for that it needs no wizard. Has he found the cause for the existence of my life? Even so he too shall see the valour of a brother used in his favour. Go, speak on my behalf words not of adulation. I would not remain without seeing thy foster father. I suspect I slew many servants beloved by him. I will only beg forgiveness, and so I shall return. Speak thus. Send me no more messages. Tomorrow I shall not fail to set out. I shall have no more of the word if. The king of the Arabs will not make my words to be of no avail. Pleasantly shall I beg his daughter. I shall entreat of him. I shall persuade him. Predon told Aftandil Taria's message. He will not stay, quoth he. Vain is it for thee to speak of waiting. It oppressed him. Again the smoke and glow burned his heart. Thus respect is due to kings, devotion from knights. Aftandil went to beseech Taria on bended knee. He embraces his feet, he kisses them. He no longer looks up to his waist. He says, What I have sinned against Roshtan this year is enough. Make me not again to be a breaker, a shatterer of loyalty. What thou desirest God's justice will not give thee. How can I dare do a treacherous deed to my foster father? How can I undertake aught against him, who for my sake has become pale? How can the servant use his sword upon his master? Such deed will make discord between me and my beloved. Woe is me if she become angry, displeased, if wrath compel her heart. Then shall she even stint me of tidings, and make me languish for a sight of her. No man of flesh can exact forgiveness for me. Tariel, that radiant sun, spake laughing. He took Avdantil's hand, raised him, set him on his feet. Thy help hath done me every good, but it is better that thou also shouldst rejoice my joy with thine. I greatly hate too much fear, respect, and ceremony in a friend. I hate unbroken sternness, gloominess, majesty. If one be a hearty friend, let him tend towards me. If not, I for myself, he for himself. Separation is much better. I know the heart of thy beloved with regard to thee. The visit of me who have met thee will not displease her. Now I can venture to speak somewhat plausibly to the king. I only desire to see the desirable sight of them. This only will I say to him entreatingly and respectfully, that he should give thee his daughter of his free will. Since the end is union, how can you endure separation? Beautify each other, fade not apart. When Avtandil knew from Taria that he would not be hindered from going, he ventured not to dispute. He added thereto assent. Predon counted over select men as a convoy. He set out with them. Of course, he travelled the road with them. End of chapter 45. Chapter 46 is The Man in the Panther Skin by Shota Rustaveli, translated by Marjorie Wardrop. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Beeswaxcandle. Tariel goes again to the cave and sees the treasure. This hidden thing Divnos the sage reveals. God sends good. He creates no evil. He shortens the bad to a moment. He renews the good continuously. His perfect self he makes more perfect. He degrades not himself. Those lions, those sons, set out from Predon's country. They led with them the sun-faced, the maiden, the amazing to beholders. The raven's tail of her hair ordered, hangs coiled by the crystal of her brow and cheek. Beauty, tenderness, there adorned the fine ruby. That sun sat in a palanquin, and thus they made her fair. They followed the chase, there caused they blood to flow. Wherever they came upon a land, they were the joy of beholders. They went forth to meet them, gave gifts, eulogized, reviled them not. It was as if the sun sat in the firmament amid moons. Many days they journeyed, merry, sagely discoursing, within those great plains on all sides unattained of men. They reached the neighbourhood of that rock where Tariel had been. Tariel said, "It is seemly that I should be your host this day. Thither will I go where I was while madness afflicted me. There will Asmat entertain us. She hath store of smoked meat. When I give you fair gifts, you shall praise the variety of the treasure." They went in. They dismounted in that cave of the great rocks. Asmat had venison. She carves it for the guests. They were merry. They joked at the passing of those deeds. They thanked God that he had turned their days of woe to joy. They explored the hollow hill. Merry they played. They found those treasures sealed up by Taria, uncounted by any, apprehended by none. They say not with dissatisfied hearts, "We lack." He gave many fair gifts, to each what was fitting. Then he enriched Predon's people, army and generals alike. Every man was enriched, all those who came with them. But there lay so much treasure, it seemed still untouched by man. He said to Predon, "Hard will it be for me to pay the debt I owe thee. But it is said, a man who is a doer of good loseth not in the end. Now the treasure, as much as lieth here or is to be found, let it all be thine. Take it away as it belongs to thee." Predon humbly did homage. He expressed exceeding gratitude. "O king, why thinkest thou me stupid and thus mazed? Every enemy seems to thee a straw. However much he may be like a thick cudgel, my joy lasts but so long as I shall be a gazer on thee." Predon made men go back to bring camels to take away all this treasure to his home. Now they set out thence on the road leading to Arabia. Avtandil is a minished moon by longing to be united with the sun. When many days were past, they reached the boundaries of Arabia. They saw villages, castles, frequent, uninterrupted. Those dwelling therein had clothed their forms in blue and green. All were bathed in tears for Avtandil. Tariel sent a man to the presence of King Roshtan to say, "I venture, O king, to approach thee full of desire. I, king of the Indians, come to your royal court. I will show thee the rosebud, unfaded, unplucked. Formerly my sight of thy ground made you angry. Thou didst ill in attempting to capture me, to urge thy horse against me. I showed thine army some sign of anger. I massacred many slaves, servants of your palace. Now therefore I come before you. I have gone out of my way. You will pardon me that in which I sinned against thee. Let thy wrath be sufficient. We have no offerings, as Predon and his knights can testify. The only gift I have brought you is your Avtandil." Tongue cannot shortly tell how they rejoiced when the messenger of these good tidings came to the king. The brilliancy of 3 rays was added to Tinatin's cheeks. The shadow of eyebrows and lashes makes fairer the crystal and ruby. They beat the kettle drums, and peals of joyous laughter were heard. The soldiers ran hither and thither. They desired to run to meet them. They began to lead out the horses and to bring out saddles. A multitude of knights, swift-armed, stout-hearted, mounted. The king mounted. The princes and the armies entire go to meet him. Whoever hears, others from divers parts come to his presence. All give thanks to God. They raise their voices. They say, "Evil hath no existence. Good things are ever ready for thee." When they met, and the meeters perceived each other, Audible said with tender words to Tariel, "Behold, seest thou the dust-dyed plains? There a furnace consumes me. My heart is fevered and sad. There is my foster-father. He has come to meet you. I cannot go thither. I am ashamed. A furnace consumes my heart. Living man hath never been shamed as I am. What you intend to do for me you know, also Pridon, who is beside you." Tariel said, "Thou dost well to show respect to thy lord. Now stay, come not thither, stay alone without me. I will go. I will tell the king of thy hiding. With God's help, I think I shall soon unite thee to that son with the figure of an aloe." The lion Audible tarried there. A little tent was put up. Georgian also stayed there, the amazer of beholders. The zephyr of her eyelashes is wafted like a north-east wind. The king of the Indians departed straight, not secretly. Pridon went with them. Of a truth, they were a long time crossing the field. The king knew of their coming. Tariel went forward alone. His figure swayed. He dismounted and did homage to the bold one, strong as a lion. He does honour to the king of the Indians as a father. Tariel also did homage. He goes to kiss, to greet. The king kissed his neck to give pleasure to his lips. In wonder he speaks, in order to embolden him. "Thou art the sun. Separation from thee turns day into night." The king marvelled at his beauty and good looks. He gazed with wonder on his face. He praises the hardihood of his arms. Then Pridon also greeted him. He did homage to the king eager for the sight of Audible. The king shrinks from praising Tariel and is discouraged. Tariel says, "O king, hereby is my heart subjected to thee. I marvel how you can think thus of my worth. Since Audible is thine, how can any other please thee? Dost thou not wonder at not seeing him, and at his tarrying? Come, let us sit down, O king. Pleasant is this meadow of verdure. I will venture to tell you the reason why I could not bring him before you. I have a favour to ask of you. Now I must beg leave of you." The king sat down. The multitude of the host stood around. A smile brighter than a lamp flits over Tariel's face. The sight maddens the beholders of his bearing and gestures. He began to relate to the king a speech wisely chosen. "O king, I hold myself unworthy to mention this, but I am come before you to entreat, to beg. He himself beseeches who seems a sun-like shedder of rays, he who is my light and enlightener. Now we both venture to approach thee with prayer and entreaty. Audible gave me balm befitting him. He forgot that woes quite equal to ours afflicted him. I will not weary thee. A long story is beyond our powers. Your children love each other. The maid loves him, and he the maid. Therefore I think on him pitiful, tearful, and wan on bended knee I entreat thee. Let them no longer be consumed by flame, but give your daughter to the strong-armed, stout-hearted one. No more than this will I ask of thee, neither short nor long." He drew forth his handkerchief, tied it round his neck, rose up, bent his knee, besought him like a pupil before a teacher. It astonished all men who heard the story. When he saw Tariel on his bended knees, the king was dismayed. He went back a long way. He did homage. He fell down to the earth. He said, "O monarch, all my joy is blown away from me. This abasement of you thus has saddened for me the sight of you. How could it be that man should not grant thee whatever thou desirest, or that I should grudge my daughter if thou didst wish to devote her to death or slavery even? If you had even ordered it from your home, not even then would my tears flow. None other can she find like him if she fly up even to heaven. I could not find a better son-in-law than Audiendil. Myself, I have given the realm to my daughter. She has it, and it befits her. The rose blooms anew. My flower is blown. What objection can I make? Only let him be satisfied. If thou wert to marry her to some slave, even then I would not grudge her to thee. Who could refuse thee? How could any save a madman quarrel with thee? If I loved not Audiendil, why did I thus yearn for him? Verily, O God, I am in thy presence. This is confirmed by me. When Tariel heard this speech from the king, he bowed himself, humbly did homage, fell on his face. Then the king did homage to him. He came forward, he stood before him. They thanked each other, nor were they at all annoyed. Pridon mounted. He galloped as herald of good tidings to Audiendil. Indeed, he also rejoiced at this great joy. He went and took him, led him and accompanied him. But he is abashed before the king. Darkly he shed his beam. The king arose, met him. The knight dismounted when the king came. In his hands he had a handkerchief. Therewith he hid his face. The sun was concealed by a cloud. It grew gloomy. The rose was chilled. But how could anything hide his beauty? The king would have kissed him. Tears no longer flow. Audiendil embraced his feet. The ray streams down. The king said, Arise, be not ashamed. Thou hast revealed thy prowess. Since thou art loyal to me, be not ashamed. Why shouldst thou be ashamed before me? He embraced him. He kissed him all over his face. He said, Thou hast quenched my hot fire, though tardily thou hast appeared to me as water. To her who has heard it in the jet, in the vicinity of the eyelashes, tomorrow I shall unite thee, O lion, with the sun. Come quickly to her. The king embraced the neck of that lion and hero like one. He seats him close. He speaks to him, kisses him, gazes on his face. That son so met royalty as he was worthy of it. Then is joy pleasant, when a man hath passed through grief. The knight says to the king, I marvel that thou speakest of something else. Why thou desirest not to see the sun, or why thou delayest. Meet her gladly, conduct her to your house, be clothed in her rays, set them around as a light. He told Tariel also. They mounted and went to meet the lady. The cheeks of those 3 Goliaths were dyed to a sun colour. They met what they desired, they found what they sought, they had handled their swords, not girded them idly on their loins. Dismounting afar off, the king greeted the lady. The lightning flashing from her cheeks blinded his eyes. She met him, sitting in the palanquin she kissed him. The king began a eulogy. He was wholly bereft of his wits. He said, O son, how shall I praise thee, O light and maker of good weather? For thy sake understandings are mad, and not for naught. O sunlight and moonlight, to what planet do they liken thee? No longer do I wish to look on you, O ye roses and violets. All they that saw her marvelled at the shedding of her rays. Like a sun, she blinded the eyes of the onlookers by the sight of her light. Burned by her, they found the comfort of their hearts in gazing. Wheresoever she appeared, crowds came running towards her. They mounted. They all went homewards. They have the 7 planets to compare with that sun. Her beauty is incomprehensible. It is beyond their understanding. Soon they came to the place of the king's dwelling house. They came in. They saw Tinatin, the bestower of woe on them that look on her. The wearing of the purple beautified the sceptre and crown bearer. The radiance of her face rested on the faces of the newcomers. The king of the Indians entered, that hero-like son. Tariel and his wife humbly saluted the maid. They met, kissed, and held pleasant converse. They illumined that house. They made not the light to fade. They turned crystal and ruby into cheeks, jet into eyelashes. Tinatin invited them up to the lofty royal throne. Tariel said, Sit thou, it is desired by the supreme judge. This day, more than all days, thy throne befits thee. I seat the lion of lions beside thee, the son of sons. Both took him by the hand and set him on her throne. They placed Audiendil by the side of her for desire of whom he was slain. She is better than the seen and the unseen, better than all sights. Think not any were like them in love, not even Ramin and Vis. The maiden was bashful and astonished to have Audience seated by her side. Her colour paled, and her heart shot forth a tremor from within. The king said, "Child, why art thou so bashful before me? The sages say that love in its end will not fail. Now, children, God grant you 1,000 years' length of life, happiness, prosperity, glory, and moreover freedom from ills. May heaven not make you fickle. May it fall to your lot to be steadfast like it. May my fate be to have the earth heaped over me by your hands." And the king commanded the armies to do homage to Audience. "This is your king," quoth he. "Such was God's will. This day he hath my throne. I have an old age like an infection. Serve him as well as ye have served me. Keep my command." The soldiers and the magnates bent. Humbly they did homage. They said, "Let us be as the earth to them that dispose of our lives, them who magnify those of us who are obedient, who liken the disobedient unto corpses, who make the arms of foes to fail, and encourage our hearts." Tario too spoke a eulogy, the glorification of hope. He said to the maiden, "You are united. No longer the heat of fires burns thee. Thy husband is my brother. I desire too that you be my sister. I will bring to naught those who are false and opposed to thee." End of chapter 46. Chapter 47 of The Man in the Panther Skin by Shota Rustaveli, translated by Marjorie Wardrop. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Beeswaxcandle. Here is the marriage of Audience and Tinatin by the king of the Arabs. That day Audience sits as lord and is high king. Tendernesses beautified Tariel who sits with him. Nestanjar, the amazer of onlookers, is with Tinatin. It is as if heaven had bent down to earth, and two suns are united. They began to bring bread to plenish the armies. Beeves and sheep are slain more abundant than moss. There was made an offering of presents fitting to them. The ray of the faces of them all lightens like the sun. The bowls were of jacinth, the cups were of ruby. Moreover, wondrously coloured vessels bear passing wondrous seals. The panegyrist of that wedding would be praised by the sages. O onlooker, thou wouldst have said unto thy heart, "Be not loosed, be bound there." The minstrels approached from all sides. There was heard the sound of the cymbal. Heaped lies a hillock of gold and cut rubies. For drinkers flows a fountain of wine from 100 runlets like a canal. From twilight to dawn there was noise, the time of mourning past. None remained without a gift, neither lame nor crippled. Pearls rolled to and fro, scattered, thrown about. Satin and solid gold were of none account to be carried away. For 3 days the king of the Indies was as a groomsman to Audience. On the morrow the king of the Arabs again entertains. He is not listless. He said to Tario, "Pleasant it is to gaze on thy son. Thou art king of all kings, and she queen. It behoves us your footprints to pierce our ears for earrings, as slaves. Now, O king, it is not fitting that we should sit on a level with you." The royal throne he placed for Tario, and another couch apart. He placed Audience and his wife lower down according to their rank. First of all they present gifts for Tario. They lie in a heap. The king of the Arabs plays the host. He does nothing but entertain. Sometimes he approaches these, sometimes those. He stands not upon his royal dignity. He gives, and all praise his ungrudging generosity. Predon sits near Audience as one accustomed to kingship. The king did honour to the daughter of the Indies and her husband. He gave them love and gifts, as to a son and daughter-in-law. It is impossible to tell even 1/10 of what he gave, to each a sceptre, purple and jewelled crowns. Still he gave to both gifts fitting their fate, 1,000 gems born of a Roman hen, then 1,000 pearls like a dove's egg, 1,000 steeds in size, each like a hill. To Predon he gave 9 trays filled to the brim with pearls, 9 steeds richly saddled. The king of the Indians does homage with dignity, wise, not drunkenly. He gave thanks soberly, though he had drunk of the wine. Why should I lengthen speech? The days of 1 month passed. They sported, they ceased not at all from drinking. To Tariel they presented wondrous jewels of ruby stone. Their radiance like the sun covers them all. Tariel was like a rose, and was snowing a light snow shower. He sent Avtandil to Roshtan to ask for leave. He gave him this message: "To be near thee is enough for me as full joy. But enemies hold my kingdom. I know they are eating up the land. The knowledge and art of the learned destroy the unlearned. I think any hurt to me would bring somewhat of a sadness into you too. I go that tarrying here may not bring evil upon me. Soon again may I see you happy. May God's will grant it." Roshtavan said, "O king, why art thou so bashful? Whatever is best for you, do it. Look into it, examine it. Avtandil will accompany thee. Go with a great host. Rend in pieces, and cut up your enemies and them that are traitors." Avtandil said to Tariel those same 2 words that Rostavan had said. He said, "Speak not thus. Guard the crystal mounds. How canst thou, O son, depart from the newly united moon?" Avtandil said, "I will not be seduced by thee with this. Of a truth, thou wishest not to forsake me while thou goest away slandering me, saying, 'He loveth his wife, forsooth, he hath forsaken me, 'twas like him.' Am I to remain sundered from thee and an object of pity to myself? For a man to forsake his friend? He will do ill." Tariel's smile was like the sprinkling of crystal with roses. He said, "Absent from thee I bewail myself more than thou. Since thou wishest it, come away with me, accuse me not of flattery." Avtandil commands troops to be summoned to him from all sides. He assembled the armies of Arabia. No time was wasted. 80,000 men were all arrayed, man and horse clad in armour of Kavarajmir. The king of the Arabs eats the gall of bitterness at their separation. Parting from each other, both maidens, the adopted sisters, sworn with the oath of sisterhood, trusting in each other's word, with breast welded to breast, with neck riveted to neck, wept. The onlookers too had their hearts consumed. When the moon is on a level with the star of dawn, both shine equally. Should one go away, the other also is removed. If it go not away, the sky will make it remove. To look at them, the onlooker must become a hill and a mountain. He who created them such, he himself shall sunder them, though of their own will they desire not parting. They glue together and cleave the rose. They weep, and tears flow. All those who parted from them thought their lives of no account. Neston the Regent said, "Would that I had never come to know thee. Separated from the sun, I should not now be thus melted by parting. Thou shalt know tidings of me. Let me have news of thee. Speak to me in letters. As I am burned up for thy sake, thou shalt melt for mine." Tinaton said, "O son, delight of them that gaze on thee, how can I give thee up, or how can I endure parting? Instead of praying for days from God, I shall desire death. Mayest thou have as many days as I shall shed tears." Again they kissed each other. Those ladies parted. She who was left there could not take her eyes away from her who was gone. She, too, looks back, therefore flames consumed her. I cannot write down 1/10 part of that I could wish. Roshtan, at their departure, was made more mad than madman. 1,000 times he says, "Woe is me!" Not merely once doth he sigh. Hot flows the spring of tears, as if a cauldron were being heated. Tariel's face is drawn. The soft snow falls gently. It wastes away. The king crushed Tariel's rose with embracing and kissing. Quoth he, "Your presence hitherto seems like a dream to me. When thou art gone afar from me, I shall remain with my sufferings 20-fold increased. Life was given to us by thee. By thee also shall we be slain." Tariel mounted, and parting from the king, gave him a farewell greeting. All the soldiers shed tears, moistening the meadows. They said, "The sun hastens to greet thee. Haste thou too to meet him." He said, "Weeping for your sake, why should I hasten?" They set out, and departed with many troops and much baggage. Tario, Pridon, Avtandil, all well provided. He had 80,000 men with worthy steeds. The three went on, helpful one to another. The three went their way. God can never create their like again. They were met. None dared withstand them. In the plain they tarried for dinner when morning was past. As was fitting, they feasted. They drank wine, not buttermilk. What Tariel and his wife had desired fell to their lot. 7 royal thrones, seats of joy unassailable. This present solace makes them forget their sufferings. A man unacquainted with sorrow cannot find pleasure and joy. See the two sitting together. Even the sun could not be better. They blow the trumpet and proclaim him king. Copper drums make the voices sound sweet. They give him the key of the treasuries. They gave themselves into his hands as subjects. "This is our king," they cried, and they acclaimed him. They caused 2 thrones to be prepared for Avtandil and Pridon. They sat royally thereon. They extolled their majesty. What other human beings did God create like them? They related their sorrows. They revealed them to all. They drank, ate, made merry. They increased the household. As befits a wedding, so did they celebrate it. To each of the 4 they gave presents equally. They gathered together treasure to give to the poor. All the Indians considered Avtandil and Pridon to be helpers. "From you every good happens to us," they said ceaselessly. They looked upon them as lords. Whatever they willed, that they did. They came before them continually to pay court to them. The king of the Indians said to Asmat, the sharer of his sorrows, "What thou hast done, neither upbringer nor upbrought hath done. Now I enthrone thee over 1/7 part of the kingdom of India. Thine let it be. Serve us, sweet to the sweet. Whomsoever thou desirest as husband, wed him, rule the kingdom. Henceforth serve us, be subject to us." Asmat covered his feet with kisses. "From thee is my power," quoth she. "What can I find? What better service can I have than thine?" The 3 sworn brothers tarried together a few days. They sported. They received more incomparable gifts. What rare pearls! What excellent horses! But longing for Tinitin made Avtandil to show lines on his face. Tario perceived that longing of the knight for his wife. He said, "Of a truth, thy heart is angered against me. Now woe is me. Thought hath made of thy 7 griefs 8. I shall be separated from thee. Fate grudges me my joy." Then Pridon begged leave of him. "I will go home," quoth he. "My foot will oft tread this court and land if thou wilt command me as an elder to a younger. I shall desire thee as the deer of the fountain." As presents for Rostavan, Tario made Avtandil take with him beautiful little mantles, also a vessel full of cut gems, not spoons full, not ladles full. "Take them from me. Go," quoth he, "disobey me not." Avtandil said, "I know not how I shall survive without thee." The lady sent to the lady a little cloak and a veil. Who, save her, was worthy of such garments? A jewel, he who carried it off could not say, "I have carried it in vain." At night it gives light like the sun. It is visible wherever thou lookest. Avtandil mounted. He departed. He said farewell to Taria. The flame of the fire of separation burned them both. All the Indians wept. The tear moistened the mead. Avtandil said, "The poison of this world slays me." Pridon and Avtandil journeyed together for a few days. The road separated them. Each went his way weeping. The things they had planned had turned out well for them. Avtandil came to Arabia. He had not seen troubles in vain. The Arabs came forth to meet him. He beautified the realm. He saw his son. The affliction of his desires fled. He sat with her on the throne. He rejoiced at the joy of the onlookers. The Most High from above endued his crown with sovereignty. Those 3 sovereigns loved one another. They visited one another. Their desires were fulfilled. They that disputed their rule were put to the sword. They enlarged their kingdoms. They were sovereign. They increased their might. They poured down mercy like snow on all alike. They enriched orphans and widows, and the poor did not beg. They terrified evildoers. The ewes could not suckle the lambs. Within their territories the goat and the wolf fed together. Their tale is ended like a dream of the night. They are passed away, gone beyond the world. Behold the treachery of time. To him who thinks it long, even for him it is of a moment. I, a certain Meshkian bard of the borough Rustaveli, I write this. For the god of the Georgians, whom David the son serves in his course, I have put the story into verse. For her entertainment, who strikes terror from east to west, consuming those who are traitors to her, strengthening those who are loyal. How shall I sing to David's harp, attuned and loud sounding, these wondrous tales of strange foreign monarchs? Old-time customs and deeds, praises of those kings have I found and done unto verse. Thus have we chattered. This is such a world as is not to be trusted by any. 'Tis a moment to the eyes of men, and only long enough for the blinking of the eyelashes. What seek you? What do you? Fate is an insulter. For him whom fate deceives not, it is better to be happy in both worlds. Mose Corneli praised Amiran, son of Georgian. Shavtheli, whose poem they admired, praised Abdul Messir. Sarjustmokveli, the unwearying-tongued, praised Dilgareth. Rustaveli praised Tariel, for whom his tear unceasing flows. End of chapter 47. End of The Man in the Panther Skin by Shota Rustaveli, translated by Marjorie Wardrop.